Hello, this is Warlord, and today we're going to take a look at some basics in iClone 7. If you've never used iClone, or it's been a long time since you've used iClone, then this is the kind of video that will help you familiarize yourself with some of the basics. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's go get our terrain. So we'll come over here to Set, Terrain, Height Map Large, and drag in the hill or double click on it. Doesn't matter which one you do. Now let's go ahead and take a look a little bit at what we're doing here. Let's go ahead from here and let's go into Prop, 3D Blocks, and just go ahead and double click on Box 1. And then back away from it a little. And now we're going to rotate down and around. And you can see that it wasn't flat to start with. We're on the side of a hill. So what we're going to do is flatten this out and remove all this rockiness and stuff. We're going to go ahead and just make it one solid bit of grass so that we can reuse this texture for, or excuse me, this terrain for something else. Okay, let's go to Scene and let's select our terrain. And we come over here to Modify, and you'll see that we have height and height scale and height offset. Now you'll also see a height map and a mask. If you haven't used these before, this height map determines what areas are raised, what areas are lowered, by it being either black, gray, on up to white. The mask, you use red, green, blue to tell it basically where these rocks, where these different textures are and things. You can look at these in Photoshop to see how they're made. If you want to make a dramatic change on it, you go into Photoshop and you change that. But for right now, we're just going to go ahead and lower the height scale almost to nothing. But at the same time, we don't want this to be up in the air. This is supposed to be ground level. I'm going to hit Alternate G, and as you'll see, that's ground level. There's my grid. So what we're going to do is use this height offset to bring it up. And we'll turn that grid back off. And we'll just bring it up a little more. We'll just say right about there. And what that does is restore your ground level. Now we're basically level here. So let's go ahead, and while we're here, let's go back to Content. And let's go to Sky. And let's drag in the night sky. Okay, now you can see we're still not up on our box here. So let's go back to Hill under Terrain. And let's just raise this up until it starts covering the bottom of the box like it is right there, and then back off a little bit. And the reason it's not perfect is because we don't have it perfectly flat right here. But now we're ready to go ahead and take a look at taking these rock layers out and making all this one texture. Okay, so let's go ahead and select Hill. Let's go to our Texture tab, and you'll see here we have our different maps. We're going to replace these maps with this map 1 so it's all the same. So that is currently selected. What I'm going to do is save it. I've already done this once, so you'll see here I have saved grass on both the bump and that. So we'll come down here to 2 and we'll change these out. After you change, you'll notice that lightens up. That's because you have to come back to here and hit Use RGB. Let's do the same thing on these other 2. Okay, now we have it all one color. Now is where some of the fun starts. We're going to add some grass. So let's go over to Content, and what you're going to be on is the Set tab, under Template, Grass, and let's just go ahead and drag in grass. Come over here and hit Start Gardening. Make your size as big as you can make it. On density, it depends on just what your system can handle. You notice I've got mine set to about 65, and just start clicking and adding grass. Now, we're not really going to work on doing the whole landscape. We're just basically going to do what we see here in the viewfinder. I'll back it off a little bit. And we're just going to continue to add some of this grass. Give us a decent area to work in. Okay, now let's go down and let's get some yellow flowers. And let's change their size a little bit. Make them a little wider and a little taller than the grass. We don't want it anywhere near that thick. We just want to add a little color. And you just kind of do this randomly, however you want to do it. You've seen fields of wildflowers or pictures of them. They just kind of grow randomly. Now let's come over here and grab some purple flowers. And I may want to make those just a little taller. Quite a bit less dense. We're not doing anything in particular. We're just kind of randomly adding them. Then we'll grab some magnolias. That's another purple flower. This must be Purple Day. Cut the density down even more and just sprinkle them out through there. Now you will wish that there were round tools and other things when it comes to putting down these plants. But you'll find out that the square tool you're given works pretty good. Alright, that's enough for the grass. Now is the time to add our log that we download. That download comes from Quixel. And what I'm going to do, I've got it in props on mine. You'll need to download it and drag it in. The props miscellaneous and find mine. And eventually we'll get to it and I'll drag it over. There it is, log Quixel. Now it's loaded up there right in the center. You just can't tell. And now we can go ahead and delete our box also. And I'm going to rotate the log just a little. This is just personal preference here. I'm going to increase its size a little. Okay. And that's good enough for the log. Well, I just noticed that we need to frame the shot better. Over here in the upper corner, we have some of the area that we did not cover. And we have plenty of area to work with, so let's just rotate that around out of the way and just frame our shot a little differently. Now this is still just our working shot right here. In fact, I think I'll do it like that. Then I'm going to take the log and rotate it just a little, like that right there. Okay, now let's go back to template, grass, and let's move down to tufts. Drag a tuft in so we have it available. Start gardening, and let's just do these one at a time. Size down to 1 and density to 1. And something else that I forgot to do that we have to do before this will work. Let's go to scene. Let's grab our log, right click and convert it to terrain. Now we're ready to come back and do the grass. And what we're going to do is, you see there, that allows me to actually put the grass on the log. It can be a little touchy trying to do this. Depends on how things are shaped once you make it part of the terrain. Okay. Let's see, what else do we have here? The magnolias. Let's see, let's go get some carnations. Drag those in, and we'll do those also. Just a few at a time. Now you got to be careful with flowers and grass like this tufts. You don't want them to clash, and we may have to place these in a different place. If you put them behind like this, they'll either work or they'll clash with it when the wind plays. Let's see what happens. Yeah, you notice right here, you'll see it goes back and forth. That's not too bad, but that's still a clash, where by clash I mean, what I'm talking about is it distracts. You see it going in front and back of the other speed tree asset, and what that does is draw the viewer's eye to it instead of what you want them to see. It may seem like something trivial, but it's really not. You don't want anything that draws the viewer's eye away from the intended scene target. And the intended scene target here, even though we don't have one, is certainly not going to be the grass and the rose, or the grass and the carnations. We'll just do a few like that, and a few like that. Now, this is personal preference. You can do this however you want, but you can see there how we were able to add this to that just by adding that log to the terrain. Now, let's go do some trees. And here, I'm just going to use a broadleaf tree. We'll drag one in right here. We want one in the area of this log anyway, and then we'll put several in the background. Alright. Now we don't want it to be too thick, but you do want it to kind of hide the horizon, or not hide it, but mask it a little bit. Now, if you're having trouble placing and you like this shot, now is as good a time as any to show you how to create a camera. Come to Create, Camera, and what you have done is you have now made a camera from this shot, and unless you move that camera, that shot will always be there. Now I'm going to go back to Preview. The two are the same right now. I know that's kind of confusing, but what I'm going to do is move the preview out so we can kind of see more what we're doing here when we're placing our trees. And you go back to the camera when you get ready to render your shot or whatever. So let's do that. And I'm going to get it back down just a little. Space them out a little more. Said I don't want it too thick. Now, these kind of assets don't really eat up a lot on your computer, so you can use them pretty liberally. But you'll soon find out what you can and can't do. Okay, I think that'll work for now. Let's go see what it looks like. Yep. That will work for now. And this gives us our basic scene landscape, but we haven't done any lighting. This is just default lighting, which is pretty flat, and of course is nothing like a nighttime lighting. So that's what we'll take a look at next. I'm sorry, I just lied to you. We still need to put down a campfire, so we'll have a light source. So let's go over to content, prop. Let's go find our rocks. Let's see, nature. And yeah, let's use rock 1. That'll work. Now we'll take rock 1, and I am going to reduce it down just a little. Then I'm going to hit Control K for multi-duplicate. And let me go grab a multi-duplicate dialog off the other screen. We'll do 4 of these, and we're going to put them around in a circle. Kind of like that. You can always manipulate these later as individual objects or whatever, however you want to do it. What I'm doing is just kind of tightening them up. Okay, now let's go to the scene. These are our rocks here. I'm going to grab all the rocks but one. I'm going to hit Pick Parent under Attach, and then I'm going to attach them. That way I can work this as one group instead of having to work it as several groups. And you'll see what I'm doing here in a minute. Now what I need to do is get rid of some of that grass that we so diligently planted. So we'll go over here, hit Start Gardening, go to Mower, and we'll keep our mower small. And you saw what I did there. I've got it down there just where I just cut some of this grass out of where the fire area is. And you don't really have to do that. That's just something that I do. And now that we've got all that done, let's go to Particle, Fire. Let's get the torch fire, and let's bring it in. If you're not sure where that's at, you can always use your gizmos to tell you and turn on the visibility. There's a little mesh there to show you where these are. Okay, and that's going to be our fire. Okay, now I think we're finally ready to go take a look at lighting. Now the best way to tell anything about lighting, if you've never used it before, is to go ahead and kill all the lighting in a scene. So, let's come back and see what happens when we kill out all our lights. And I mean every light we got in here. So what we're going to do is come over here to Light, and we're going to shut them off. Then we're going to go to the Visual tab, Ambient Light. If you're not sure that you might not want to use that ambient light, you can add it to custom colors. After you do that, go to Black. That should black everything out except the sky. From there, you go to Scene and back to the sky. We go to our Texture tab, and here's Self-Illumination. I'm going to get it down pretty low to where you just, some of you may not be able to see this. You can just barely see a horizon in there. Now we come over here to Visual, and you'll see that nothing is on. So this is pretty much an unlit scene right now. In fact, you may want to go ahead and save your scene right here so you can go back to it if you don't like how you end up lighting it. Let's go ahead and activate our Global Illumination, one of the new features in iClone 7. And let's just run it and take a look. And nothing's really lit up. All you see is just the flames. We have to come in here and tell iClone that we want those flames to be self-illuminated. So I'm going to click on the torch, particle, and here you'll see illumination. Now you can make it stronger here when you can't use self-illumination. And now you can see how much of that area we're lighting up depending on what setting we use. Now, I told you that other things can be a light source, and that is true. They can be a light source. So let's go ahead and let's go to terrain where our log was. Select it, right click, and let's convert it back to a prop. This will let us manipulate it a little further. We want to go to the texture tab, and you'll notice it too has an illumination tab. And what you have to do is use self-illumination to get it to work. I'm just going to trigger it up on 1. You can see here how it works with that. And you can get a little bit of illumination that way, but you have to be careful because that tends to wash out the prop, mainly because you're using self-illumination. And self-illumination can completely wash out your texture. But here, as you see, we've done nothing else but just illuminate it by the fire. Okay, let's go to the Visual tab. And let's go down to about the only thing that's going to give us some instant lighting. Let's activate the IBL. You can see that's pretty bright. Double click on it. And your IBL hopefully looks like this, and go into HDRI. And I'm going to use this last one, 1024 Office Window is what it says. We'll bring it in. I'm going to hit Use RGB. But then let's bring it way down. Let's bring it down to 3. Something like that right there. Now from there, let's go to HDR effect, tone map. You can either disable the glare. I'm putting it on cheap lens. I'm going to 1. Probably going to go to about 15 on that. That's just personal preference. And this is what we have. Now, when it comes to lighting a dark scene, like a night scene, everybody's got a different way of doing one. I can't count the different times I've had different direction given to me on how to light a scene at night. In most cases, they still want you to be able to see the scene. In some cases, they don't. It depends on if it's suspenseful or not. But in this case, as you can see, we can still see most of our scene, even though it's dark. We know it's nighttime. And so all this does is try and allow you, this type of lighting, allow you to see what's in the scene without it overpowering you. And we still haven't put in ambient occlusion. And if you don't think it's important, just view AO and you'll see. That's what we've got so far. And then let's go over here. Let's see, to content. We need to go to effect and LUT, and let's drag in cool. Now you notice it has an immediate effect, and that may be a bit much. Just come to visual. This is where you change it, right up here on your tab. This is where you can set the level of how much of that you want to use. Maybe just a little more. And this may not be the look that you want. I'm just showing you how this works. Now, since we know that props can be used as light sources, we can use dummies to supplement this lighting. There hasn't been hardly anything I've worked on that we didn't cheat in some way to achieve some kind of look that somebody wanted, creative director or someone, by using dummies. So let's go to Content, Props, 3D Blocks, and let's drag in one of the balls. I'm going to go ahead and raise it up and increase the size a little. Come over here to the Texture tab. On base color, I'm just going to turn that to 0 So it'll be white, and I'm going to delete the roughness. Now if you want to use a color, you can. And then self-illumination. And then here you can see it having an immediate effect on wherever you place it. Now I just held Control down to duplicate it. And what I'm going to do is use this to supplement my fire lighting so we can see some of this grass that's around here. I can use 1, 2, or 3 of these, however many I want to use. You can place them where you want. You can just see that just highlights a little bit of the grass there. Adds to your fire. And then, if you want to have some fun, which we all generally do, you can always have your little easy, I don't know what you'd call it, maybe like a UFO sighting, or what we call down here the lights of Marfa. And something you can do with this also, because I've tried it, is you can use this to simulate headlights passing on the highway. So I think it would be pretty simple to create a prop where you could put several of these together in a looping motion. And as long as it's at a distance, it would look like traffic going down the road at night. Now let's pull our main camera back a little bit. And up like that. And then let's go all the way to the end. And let's push our camera forward. Give it a little movement. And then there we'll have some movement as we go in on our scene. Now there are as many different ways to light this as there are people to look at it. You have to develop your own style. This just went over some of the basics. Remember, you can use objects. We hadn't even added any actual lights. You can also do that. Daytime scenes are a little different. They're not quite as critical, but you do have to light them as well. So you want to pay attention there. Make sure you don't get too much glare. That's one thing that can look bad on some monitors. And also watch for getting it too dark. Sometimes what I'm doing right here borders on being too dark, and some monitors you won't be able to see it as well. But this should give you the basics to get started. I hope this helps.